Welcome everybody. I am happy to welcome you to the fourth panel discussion of our festival opening Goethe-Institut in Exile. My name is Andriy May. I'm working for the team that is curating and working for this festival. And I'm happy to have now a panel that is actually really one of the core, that was dealing with one of the core topics of this festival, artists in exile. What is the definition of an artist in exile? And I'm very happy to have a very great panel here. And I want to hand over the microphone then to my colleague Elias Krössin from the Goethe-Institut headquarters. And yeah, wish you a good discussion. We have a Q&A afterwards with the audience, so don't hesitate to join the discussion afterwards. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Marc-André. I'm very happy to welcome you to our fourth panel, as Marc already mentioned, of the opening festival of the Goethe-Institut in Exile. Our topic today is art in exile, a question of definition. And I'm Elias Krössin. I'm a trainee at the Goethe-Institut, and I'm working from the headquarters in Munich. And before that, I was working for 4 years for Reporters Without Borders here in Berlin. Also with journalists from illiberal contexts. Before I introduced our guest today, I just want to give a really quick introduction to the topic today. But I promise I will be short, since we, I guess, all want to hear the artist speak today. Like we all see, democracy is losing ground, and with it also the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, and artistic freedom. So for the first time since 2004, there are more autocratic than democratic states in the whole world. So this is a view from Germany, from Europe into the outside. And in the recent days of the festival, we already heard about shrinking spaces and closing of cultural institutions in illiberal and war context even. And in preparation for this panel today, I tried to look inside Germany and into the German cultural scene, into the institutions. So as you might know, there is hardly a house without an exile ensemble. There are lots of residencies for so-called refugee artists, and also there are many pieces on migration. Of course, it's not a surprise that the inside and the outside are connected. And of course, since I'm neither an artist nor was I ever forced to live in exile, I had to recognize my look inside into German, into the artistic scene here is very limited. So, and this is why I think this panel today is very important, because questions like, what is it like for an artist to have to go into exile and arrive here with us in Germany, or how is it to work under such conditions as an artist, when there's this dictatorship, when there's even war still happening back home? How does the German society look at these artists here in exile? And is there a forced thematic focus which is impossible for the artist here to escape? So to put it in one sentence, so can a creative artist from Syria, Afghanistan, Belarus, Ukraine or Turkey only be successful here with us if he or she only fills this one box of victim or refugee artists? I cannot answer those questions. I think those questions can and should be only answered by the ones who are living and working under such conditions. So I think it's very important to hear the perspective and the experience from the artists themselves. And we should listen carefully. In my belief, this panel today is pivotal to many other recent debates, discussions, and very important also for the finding of the role of the Goethe-Institut in exile in the upcoming years. I very much look forward to our discussion today, and I'm happy to introduce our guests today who have different backgrounds, but have two things in common. One chosen and one forced. So being an artist, chosen, and being an exile, forced. So I want to introduce our panel guests today. To my right is Aslı Erdoğan. She was born in Istanbul. She's a Turkish writer of literature and a columnist. She's an author of 8 books. I think she has her 9th book with her today. Novels, novellas, as well as collections of poetic prose and essays. Her books have been translated into more than 20 languages. In 2010, she was awarded the most important literature prize in Turkey, the Said Faik Award. And in her works, she explores the foreign, the other against the background of the Turkish society and global developments. Aslı also worked as a physicist at Kann, the European Laboratory for High Energy and Physics. In 2016, as a columnist for the Kurdish newspaper Gündem, she was arrested in Turkey and has been living and working in exile in Germany since 2017. I'm very happy to have you with us today. Welcome. Right next to Aslı, we have Muhammed Alata, playwright and a theater maker from Syria. He was born in Damascus. After studying English literature and theater at the University of Damascus, he later did a master's degree in applied theater at the London Goldsmith University, and since 2011, he has focused on the Syrian revolution and the resulting ongoing conflicts. His plays, Withdrawal, Online, or While I Was Waiting, were staged at various international festivals. In 2017, Muhammad premiered Aleppo, a portrait of absence, right here at the HKW in Berlin. His work takes always place on the boundary between documentation and fiction. Muhammad currently lives and works in Berlin, and I'm also very happy to have you here today and to get your inside looks and your perspective. Welcome. And right next to Muhammad, we have Andriy May. He was born in Kherson. He studied economics and theater and film and television in Kiev. Since 2003, he has been working as a freelance theater director, curator and actor, and curates the International Theater Festival Document. He is also the co-founder of and curator of the Festival of New Ukrainian Drama, which is realized with the support of the Goethe-Institut in Ukraine. In his multimedia theater project Yesterday with refugee Ukrainian youth, we could watch Yesterday, had a predecessor called Future of Europe, which he changed to Future After the War, My Future After the War. He fled to Germany with his son and his mother on March 20th this year and now lives and works in Cologne. We are also very happy to have you here today. And our 4th guest, unfortunately just digitally with us here today, is Nadya Sayapina. She's an interdisciplinary artist, author, and art teacher from Belarus. She has participated in various international exhibitions, art festivals, and residencies using various forms such as performance, multimedia, text, installations, and art therapy. In the fall of 2020, she was arrested for participating in an art campaign against violence in Minsk, and after serving her sentence, she left Belarus. She is currently based in Poland. Unfortunately, like I said, at the moment she's not able to come to Berlin, but we are also very happy to have you here with us digitally. Welcome, Nadya. Okay. So, yeah, again, thank you all for being here with us today, also the audience. All of you have been forced to leave your country, especially as an artist. This decision means leaving your own context, your own language area, your own network, and of course, your own audience. Andriy, I would like to start with you. You fled Ukraine on the March 20th this year. Yesterday, you told us how you came home at the evening of February 23rd, actually, after working on your project with the Ukrainian youths. And you had a great day, great ideas from the participants, and of course not knowing that the war would start the very next day. And right now you changed the title in My Future After the War. I would be interested, can you give us an insight into what was it like for you to arrive here in Germany under these difficult circumstances?
Thank you for your question. Sorry. Good evening, and thank you for your question. First of all, thank you for your invitation for this public discussion. And unfortunately, just now I'm not ready for this exile position. That is why my English is very simple, and maybe sometimes I need help, like my friends. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. And about your question. You know, it's like the war started not in February for me, of course, and it's not my first project with this war topic, and especially with young generation in my country. Last 8 years I work with this topic in my country, and it's a little bit partisan story. Sometimes we had a performance and visited Moscow and worked for 8 years ago some performances for independence like Russia magazine or newspaper. But last 3 years I worked with Ukrainian young generation, and totally the title of our production named The Future of Europe. That is why next generation in my country, this is Europe generation. I'm post-Soviet generation. I understand. I was born in Soviet Union, and I like freedom so much, but I have little bit Soviet mentality. I understand this one. And I need at the stage voice for young generation, and especially just now, yeah, war started, yeah, we started a production about future. Last rehearsal we had at the 23rd of February, and at the morning we had another reality. We all just now have another reality, and but it's not like stop for me. I need to work with this generation, especially in my country. It's really very important. This is why sometimes I think, okay, it's impossible. Some people like Russia, some people only. Some people like Soviet Union, but not this generation, not this story for this young generation. And this is especially my choice.
Thank you much for your answer, and I would have a follow-up. How was the process when you arrived here? So you didn't have your 15, or we have now 15 Ukrainians. You worked in Ukraine with here, and now you did the project here with refugee Ukrainians. How did the process work?
This process, of course, start a little bit another. That is why this is young people with post-traumatic syndrome. Of course, it's impossible to work with like, okay, hello, we are from Ukraine. It's the war start and blah blah blah. It's impossible. We only like sit at the stage in Hansota Theater and okay. What happens, what you want, and talk every time. And this very long process, I was an artistic resident for months, and it's like, I think 40 meetings together, and like step by step, this, ну, як сказати, вони відкривались просто.
Step by step they opened themselves.
І ставали вільними, втрачали цю певною мірою травматику і могли про неї говорити.
Along the way they got more freedom and they would lose their trauma along the way, slowly, step by step.
І звісно в цьому різниця. And in this way this is absolutely another process, of course.
Okay. Thank you for this insight. Look, Nadya, I would go on with you, and after hearing that, and also you flew Belarus in 2020, then first to the Ukraine. We also work with the Goethe-Institut in Kiev, and then you have worked in Germany, in Stuttgart, and in Hamburg as well. And now we can see you are in Poland. So it seems like your first days in a new country have repeated itself over time. So I would be really interested in hearing from you. Can you tell us about this experience, like being forced to leave your country but not being able to settle down? And yeah, how is it like to work as an artist under such difficult conditions, always looking for the next job in the next country?
Hello everyone again, and thank you for invitation and this possibility to still participate online, because for me it's really important to have this opportunity to voice this situation from Belarusian refugees. And yeah, because of course we now only have this Goethe-Institut in exile, unfortunately. Before we also got it in Belarus, but now there is no institutions at all, I think, for independent and let's say Europe-based. But so answering your question, yeah.
So unfortunately we have to wait for Nadya. But yeah, Aslı, you have been in exile in Germany since 2017, and meanwhile, your case in Turkey went on in the meantime for 5 years. I believe it was recently acquitted after 5.5 years.
5 times.
After 5 times, I think.
Every 2 years. Sorry.
And also, in addition to that, the Minister of Education also wanted to revoke your citizenship. So the attempt of erasing you from Turkey, from the minds of the Turkish society, kept going on, even when you're not in Turkey, here already in exile. Those are also parts of your living and working conditions here in exile. That's why I wanted to ask you, can you tell us how this affects your work here and your writing in exile?
I will take this mask off. Sorry, I have a chronic sclerosis disease. This is also probably post-trauma, and I don't look very pretty. Some deformation in my face. Yeah, my teeth are decaying. Anyway, I answered the Minister of Education boldly. You can never throw me out of Turkish language. Well, it is a beautiful statement, but is it really true? I have been asking myself, because I feel like also I'm exiled from my own language. I have never had strong connections to Turkey. I never felt at home there. I lived 12 years of my life abroad. I never felt I owned that land and culture, but Turkish was my language. I didn't choose it, I was born into it. I worked on my Turkish really to improve it. And I write poetic prose mostly, and I can do it only in my native tongue. In other languages, the words they don't whisper, they don't murmur to each other. They are tak, tak, tak. But in exile, yeah, I thought I'm really losing my language. Actually, it started, I think, even before, in prison. Please don't think I'm comparing myself to Paul Celan, but I think I did really understand his experience, like his relation with German. When Turkish or German or whatever language suddenly becomes the language of authority, of the prisoning power, the prison authority, and it's your only language, it's really a trauma too. I mean, I wish I had prison guardians who would shout at me in English rather than Turkish. And on top of it came exile. Of course, I mean, I have much less contact with the language. I think I even started to feel more comfortable in English, which is a shame. So I said, yeah, I was lying when I told them, you can't throw me out of Turkish language. Actually, they did. They did, and well, this is my only native land. that's left to me is my language. So I have to find a way to fight back, I guess.
Thank you for this answer. And I would wish to know, when you write your books right now, like you have it right here, do you still write it in Turkish, or do you already write it in English? And if in Turkish, is it like, you're trying to keep the bridge alive?
Well, this is an old book, actually. It's not a new book. It's just coming out in Germany. I always try to write in Turkish. I mean, I can write only articles or essays or journalistic work in English with difficulty. But when it's literature, I go back always to Turkish. And yeah, I'm not enjoying it anymore. Honestly, I have lost my self-confidence, let's say, in my language. Maybe I'm making excuses for my laziness, I don't know. But yeah, language is my only homeland, and it's not something you think you can carry it here. But no, it needs to be kept alive. You must make new memories in this language. In your language, you must have new emotions. You must fall in love in that language again and again. And now it's cut. I speak mostly in English. I'm trying to learn German. I dream in German. So it's really a mess.
It's really sad to hear that from you, that in a way they are succeeding with what they are doing right now to you.
Yeah. I mean, yes, violence has always weird effects, and it's not optimism to deny it. No, they can't hurt me, they can't change me, they can't damage me. No, they can, they do very easily. But yeah, I mean, I have at least one wish or dream to keep on writing. So until that I lose that hope or dream, they haven't totally succeeded. But yeah.
Okay, keep going, please. And now we have Nadya back. Nadya, can you hear us? Yes. I think you were about to tell us about your situation. Always have to move. Is the audio? Nadya, 1 second. We can't hear you, but give us a second. You can see you perfectly. I think it's just the audio. Can you try again, Nadya?
Yeah.
Yeah, now. You're perfectly able. Keep going.
Thank you. Sorry for this online thing, but so the question is that from one hand, you first to change the places because of different reasons. One, maybe it's just this artistic activity because you depends on participations in different residencies, scholarships, and so on, and that's why you always change the place. So, for example, I moved from Ukraine to Germany just for participation in one exchange program, and then I also couldn't return because the war started in Ukraine. And then, the question is, where can you stay because of way of legalization? Because, for example, we stayed for 1 year almost in Germany in different cities and working with different projects and residencies. But we still cannot, we as Belarusians still cannot have any permission to stay in Germany because there is no way to have, for example, humanitarian visas as we could do in Poland. So now I'm in Poland just because of these legalization questions. And I had to go here, and there is no way to go anywhere because, for example, I cannot apply for getting even national visa in Germany if I will have permission or invitation to participate in residency or something in any country without permission to stay in this country as a temporary residency permit, for example. So the question is that we cannot sometimes choose where to stay, even when you are working in some countries, because it's a very difficult situation. And if I will try to apply for asylum in Germany, I will not get it because the first visa was a humanitarian Polish visa. So like, because I got that, I should ask for protection only in Poland. Yes, so these questions force you to move from one country to another, every time adaptate, every time find a new place, a new apartment, making these documents, new language, and trying to like figure out where you really can stay for a more long period, and yeah, to adaptate really, but not in like just few months when you just start to adaptate, let's say.
And
yeah,
it sounds like it's very time consuming to look at the visa status for each and every country. And like I understand, you have to, when you want to come to Germany, you have to first look at the residency, like get a job, and then automatically you get the visa or the permit just for that period of time, and then you have to go back. Is that correct?
Yeah, right, yeah. So like in Germany, we can come only for 19 days if we have other visas, like Schengen visas or national visas of any country. But if we want to stay more, like more than 3 months per half of year even, we need to make a national German visa, which could be only connected with your work staying. So even for residency, like they need to make a lot of documents which will show that you will be paid for that, you will have a place to stay, and so on and so on and so on. So like for making that in Ukraine, I prepared this kind of papers, as I'm joking always, that it was more than my diploma in university. So just for applying for 6 months of residency staying in Germany. And actually the same situation was even with Ukraine, for example. Not the same, but also difficult. I mean, because at that time when I moved, we were we were able to stay in Ukraine only for 3 months. Then they changed it for Belarusians to 6 months. But then you also need to make a permission to stay, like residency permit. And it's always a lot of questions with that, because like, the system is not really good. And that's why some people now, I mean, Belarusians stay in Georgia, for example, because it's like one of the places where you can really stay the whole year, just move for 1 day to another country, return, and stay again. So we always connected with this legalization staying.
Okay, thank you for your inside look. And I would come to Mohammed. You have been in Germany in exile since 2016, and ever since you have been labeled as a refugee artist, as a migrant artist, as a displaced artist even, here in Germany where you work and live for over 6 years now. So yeah, most of the times, even in the first sentences of your introductory texts on a festival, this raised in me the question, like, is there a Mohammed just as an artist who can choose what he writes about? Or I hope there is, but for the readers of those introductory texts, those labels really make it difficult not to think of you in just that context only. So what interests me is, what does these labels and the following thematic focus which follows mean for you as an artist trying to work in Germany for over 6 years now?
This is working. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Yeah, I mean, clearly I couldn't always control how my work is contextualized or how I was described. It's something I think I'm aware of, at least. I try to challenge, I try to negotiate, but it's not always within my limit of power. Of course, there is two sides of the thing. From the speaking about my legal status, I am a refugee. I am an asylum seeker. There's no shame in that. There's nothing to for me to run away from. Yeah. So this is definitely something. On the contrary, sometimes because actually a lot of people feel that they don't want to be called a refugee from the legal perspective. Sometimes I insist. I mean, of course, Hannah Arendt wrote about this long ago with a famous essay. I recommend, if you didn't read it yet, to read it. We the refugees, you know. And she spoke about, or she wrote about this notion of being ashamed of being refugee. So from the legal perspective, from the political perspective, it's something I'm not ashamed of. Something it's my reality. But of course, I'm not only a refugee. I'm not only an asylum seeker. And that's where this labeling is becoming destructive a bit, because it's not just something personal that's really less important. It's because it kind of imposes how audience or people interact with your work also. And this is problematic in my opinion, because you need to build a relation free from labels or free from limitations, based on the work more than based on who you are. You know? I have to say the dilemma in my case, I can speak about myself, is that because I'm also insisting on working on topics related to Syria and Middle East, sometimes deconstructing this label became extra difficult. Yeah, because I intentionally, still, at least till today, I don't know tomorrow, I want to tackle the situations in Syria specifically, or in the region, in Middle East in general, in my work, using my tools as theater, writing for theater, making theater, to kind of shed a light on the situation and try to tell it from different angles, maybe. So that's what makes this more problematic, because on the surface, yes, I'm tackling topics related to exile, migration, war, but in reality, for me, these themes are not only related to Syria, you know? And this is what I actually, I mean, I already knew this maybe theoretically, but in Germany, or where I worked, because I didn't only work in Germany, I realized that the themes that personally I derive maybe directly from the Syrian context, let's say, speaking about memory versus amnesia, speaking about who writes history in the time of upheavals and wars, the struggle over narrative, also in the time of war or post-war, trauma or post-trauma, the relation between oligarchs and capitalism and political systems. These themes, personally, coming from Syria or related to Syria, but I realized that there are also very global themes at the end of the day. So they address also concerns for a German audience, a Polish audience, a French audience, a Canadian audience, American audience, where I was lucky to present my work, and elsewhere, even in Japan, for example. So, and you realize that, yes, even if you insist on still tackling your local context, you know, but still, even these themes shouldn't be restricted with certain labels. So yeah, it's ongoing, I would say personally, it's ongoing struggle to try to refuse these labels. I have just to add, and sorry if I spoke long, that I'm aware that most of these attempts, or these coming sometimes from good intentions by institutions, curators, programmers, but I think it's time to be more aware and more sensitive toward this. I was personally critical from the beginning, from almost since I arrived and started to work here about these initiatives, for example, to create exile ensembles or exile ensembles. Because I think, yeah, I can see the good intentions, I can see the political correctness, I can see that some institutions, theaters, others want to maybe help or support or find place for new arrivals. But I think it doesn't give autonomy to the artist, really. It's a reproducing kind of hierarchy also. It's really, so I was personally critical. Unfortunately, my criticism didn't change anything. It's still a common practice in terms of how these works are processed or created, or even initiatives till today. I see that they have the same, more or less the same mentality or the same intentions. So yeah.
Thank you for this. And I want to ask you, how is it for you? Is it like the same like for Mohammed, that you also are you bothered by this?
I think even worse because I'm a woman. And if you are a woman, to be taken as an artist, as a writer in a foreign country, as an existentialist writer, forget it. I mean, it's I'm exaggerating. I always exaggerate a bit. But yeah, it is. I mean, it actually was perhaps even more problematic in Turkey because I had this existential style, poetic writer, and then I started to write about Kurds and Armenians. Now this didn't really fit. Probably that's what I paid for. I mean, I'm not supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be here. This is my field. This is always in, I think, every writer is probably put into certain categories, and if you don't fit there, if you fidget, you pay a price. But the price is heavier if you are a minority, if you are a woman, and in countries like ours, I mean, which is really a little misfit. And then I ended up in jail, and then I came to Europe, and now with a new label, the writer who was in prison. Now, talk to us about prison. Talk to us about oppression. Okay, I will, gladly, because I feel it's my job, my duty as well. It's like a cross I carry. Someone has to be a symbol, whatever. I don't mind it. For the others who are still in prison, I do it. But, I mean, it is really, it's sclerosis. It's a tightening. Yeah, I wrote this book, this is Das Haus aus Stein, about torture, trauma, prison, before I went to prison. This is metaphorical. It is about a madman and an angel. No, I didn't write about the Turkish prison I have been in. And now there is this pressure on me, which I feel, tell us your little prison. And it's also a voice in me is repeating the sentence, you have to tell about prison, you have to tell about exile, you have. But this is another trauma, I think, because why do I write after all? I want to define my own destiny, or at least to control my destiny, which is an impossibility, and to be able to say, I, what is this I? But the more I write, or the more I'm presented as a writer, I'm more and more defined. You are this, you are that, now write us this, now tell us this. So there is a contradiction deep there somewhere, I feel.
So like this dilemma also Mohammed also talked about. Yeah. And Nadya, I would be interested also to ask you, how is it for you? Does it also bother you already to be just seen as a victim? Or on the other side, does it help you to put the focus on the situation in Belarus, here in, not Belarus, or in Poland?
Yes, thank you. I was listening to my colleagues and feel very same, actually, because I mean, the it depends on you sometimes. Like, I think we need to go somewhere deeply and try to understand really what we want to say, because sometimes it's difficult to understand. Should you speak about that, or are you really, do you really need it for yourself? Because from one hand, of course, depending on all these situations, all these still happening awful things in my country, I need to speak about that, and I feel that I should spread my experience, different experience. Also, it was some projects connected with my imprisonment, but for me it was also like questioning, did you really understand that I'm speaking not about the prison itself, but more about how people behave themselves, how they feel, how it changed them and their relationships? Because always people just wanted to show my prison drawings, for example, which are not showing the question itself. And the same like with my project connected and based on the theme of forced migration, which I started in Ukraine with Goethe-Institut residency. I'm still working with that. It's like almost 2 years of working with the subject, and I cannot stop. So it's not only connected with that residencies or projects ask me for doing that, because I'm a refugee, because I'm working with the subject, and because now and always everybody speaks about migration somehow. So like I feel that it's even a banal topic somehow, and a lot of people trying to speak about home, feeling of home, memories, and so on and so on. But I still cannot stop, because I'm going deeply and deeply, and I'm also connected more and more with different migrants, and I want to prolong that and speaking not only about Belarusians and Ukrainians. So now I'm added like other parts and people in this migration, and I'm trying to say that still we feeling the same, and it's important to speak about these feelings, because yeah, I don't want to be a kind of alien for people in Europe who just see it as, okay, you was in a prison, how was it? Oh, okay, you're a refugee. Yeah, as we spoke about that a few minutes ago. So, but in the same time, if I will not speak about what is happening in my country, it will be presented in another way. For example, now in connection with Ukraine, of course, my country is just a second aggression, a part of aggression. And still, it happens that some people, even like from young generation, from Ukraine, ask me, for example, can you explain why you cannot return to Belarus? So I understand that, okay, we told about that during these 2 years, probably so much, and I thought that it's enough, but it seems that sometimes it's not enough. And I think that the same question is for all people from all these countries who are even here now with us, because it's always a question of misunderstanding, of not knowing some important issues of what's happening in Ukraine, in Syria, in Afghanistan, and Belarus, in Turkey, and so on. We still didn't know some important parts. So yeah, it's difficult to stop, and you sometimes difficult to always work only with this subject.
Thank you for this inside look about your situation right now. And I would like to follow up. Do you feel also sometimes you have to really explain the situation in Belarus again and again, because the institution or the society in Germany already forgot that the situation is still going on in Belarus?
Yeah, I think it's not only connected with Belarus. it's probably the same situation in some other countries, because it's a question of informing that, okay, like these 2 years we were speaking about Belarus, these 2 years we will speak about Ukraine, and we always like forget other problems. It changed like that. And during these 2 years, I saw how, like, for example, I applied with migration, with this project about first migration to some residencies in Poland, and then it happens this problem on the border between Belarus and Poland. And of course, I understood that now probably it was not a very good subject for them to speak about, because it's now it's their problem also. And I mean that it's always like changing of these issues, and always changing of information which is spreaded. So that's why I think that, of course, sometimes you need to explain it again, because you don't want to be, I don't know, judged or misunderstood as a I don't know, artist from Belarus, because I don't want to be a part of regime side, and sometimes that's why you need to explain. But at the same time, it's understandable that we cannot speak every time about all the problems in the world, and to understand everybody, and it's also understandable. So it's a question to stop or not.
No, thank you, thank you. I would like to be on that topic. Don't you rest on that topic, because like the next crisis is always coming, unfortunately, and that's why I wanted to ask you, Andriy. Yesterday, in the beginning of your performance, your first sentence was, "It is war." And for me, it was a really powerful sentence, even though it was a simple sentence. But it was also for me a reminder that it's still going on, even though we see the terrible images of the war in our news every day. Do you see yourself already as a reminder here in Germany about the situation in Ukraine? And maybe to follow up, do you fear that a next crisis will come, and that maybe already the German society focuses on their energy crisis right here?
Thank you for your question. В контексті того, що є одні конфлікти, потім з'являються інші конфлікти, люди забувають попередні конфлікти. Вчора в твоїй виставі перша фраза була «війна», чи це війна, чи якось. І що ти відчуваєш ти себе як чимось, що нагадує німецьку аудиторію про війну, і чи боїшся ти, що з'явиться якийсь новий конфлікт, чи криза якась, яка відволіче свою увагу від кризи в Україні? Yeah, thank you for your help, and you know, I'm here, and it's not my first visit to Germany like after the war. I worked here in different theater, Staatstheater and independent theater with topic about the war in my country. And this is not first project here. And the war started, of course, as for me, totally here. You use this sentence, when the war started. But war started not in February. And only in February, some people here think, okay, you have a war. Especially not only here, but in Belarus and in other country too, in Russia country too, and this is a big mistake. Yeah, and of course, when I think about a war in my country, and I think, okay, this is a stop, not about crisis next like an energy crisis. But I don't know what happens in future. This is why when I lived in Ukraine and like in Kiev, I worked in National Theater, in different theater, and I visited different part of my country, Donbass especially, and I understood when I visited Donbass, look, it's very like nice people, but we don't know about these people nothing. Like East, West, it very not a small country, Ukraine, and that is why I think not about a next crisis here. I think about where is this dialogue just now about war in my country too, about the next war. That is why it's not, as for me, it's not stop Ukraine. It's like as for me, we are just now in the middle, in the start of this position at Second War, in the 1939, yeah? I mean, if you understand what I mean. And I think about this one, or when I wrote here some text about AfD and this party with Russian flags, totally, yeah, and think, okay, when this crisis happens here, people ask, oh, okay, fucking shit, this Ukrainian problem, yeah, we have a problem here. We are like, Germany mentioned, yeah, Deutsche mentioned, we have here, große Probleme. And that is why I don't think about, totally I'm director, yeah, and not on who is curator, yeah, if I'm director or no, I'm like, if I'm director, I'm a creator. And I need this very not sweet question for Ukrainian audience, for Germany audience, for Belarus audience, and for Russian audience too. Yeah, and that is why this is my choice. And I think not about the next crisis, but I think about which position here people has. What is the position for this audience? Where is the space for audience, for example, in my performances, or where is this not theater space, but this, I mean, if you understand what I mean, sorry, what is your position if you think about the war? And that is why it's important for me. Ну, як сказати, Ваня, я не боюся того, що зміниться вектор і всі забудуть про щось, да, про війну в Україні.
I'm not afraid that the direction will change and everybody will forget about the war.
Я боюсь, що люди просто забудуть про те, що проблеми з тим, що їм нема чим опалювати будинок, це не проблеми тих людей, які втратили дім в Маріуполі і в Херсоні.
I'm afraid that people who care about the warmth in their house will think that that's not their problem, that there are people who are dying in Mariupol.
І мені здається, що мені важливо, ну так, можливо, бути радикальним, але казати «hello», війна недалеко. Ви маєте бути готовими до того, що вона може статися тут через рік.
I might be a bit radical, but I have to say that the war is not so far away and it might come here in a year or at some point.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mohammed, I would ask you, can you relate to that experience, being the war in Syria still going on, and then crisis here in Germany, crisis happened, and we just talk about the crisis here?
I mean, for sure. It's okay. Thank you. I relate exactly with what Andriy said about that people generally thought that the war. So that the war in Ukraine, for example, started on the 24th of February. It was there for years in Ukraine. The same in Syria now. I mean, it's sometimes really, I don't know if fascinating is the right word, but this is what I came up with, how media like dictate what's happening or what's not. So because now Syria, it doesn't exist anymore. Because you look, you have to dig in the news to find something about Syria. While the war in Syria is still happening, it's still ongoing. Maybe not in the same intensity to be precise, but it's still, there are clashes. The country is divided to three parts. Every part is controlled by a different de facto power. We have foreign platoons or armies. We have foreign mercenaries. Yesterday it was really, I mean, if it's not tragic, it would be really funny. The Russian and American soldiers were taking pictures in a city in North Syria. You can check it on that, because they how to say, they have patrols. They to just make sure that nobody cross, you know, because there is an area which is northwest Syria is controlled by the Kurdish forces, Arab Kurdish forces combined, but it's actually under the American kind of autonomy. And you have the northwest is controlled by the Turkish. I mean, on the ground it's Syrian militias, but Turkey has the upper hand, and the rest of Syria is where the Syrian regime, but in reality it's Iranian and Russian forces. And yesterday there was, I mean, you hear for example, the escalation between the United States and Russia, and on the ground in Syria, American and Russian soldiers. It's really, I laughed personally, so I found it's surreal. So yeah, yeah. So and suddenly it's not on Syria. It doesn't exist anymore. So and of course you have to. And then the question, what do you do? Because honestly, Syria not on the map. For me, I know it might sound a bit weird, but it's not all bad. Speaking about culture and art sphere, because then maybe this will liberate a lot of Syrian artists, Syrian culture actors from labels again, from this kind of victimhood, from this kind of, labels that is imposed on them. And maybe, hopefully with time, again, being Syria not on the map, will make their work, how to say, received for the quality and for the topics and for the themes, not just for who are they, the artists, and what is their political or how to say legal status. So I have to say that part of Syria is not on the map anymore. I'm okay with that, really. Speaking more mainly maybe about the culture, but politically and on a humanitarian level, it's agonizing, of course, because the war is still ongoing. 1/3 of the population is displaced in Syria. Almost 90%, really 90% of the population inside Syria are under poverty line. It's a very dire situation. So, and then you have to dig for a news about what's happening there. There is a cholera today in Syria. I mean, as if they were needed more misfortune. So, and yes, but then you have to again to think. Okay, I want to tackle these topics, but at the same time, I don't want to always be portrayed in a certain category. You know, I can tackle these topics, but without building my narrative or my discourse on the themes of victimhood or the themes of something similar like that. So it's again it's an ongoing negotiation, I would say, between between what do you want to do and how the new context that you are in is receiving this work. Yeah.
Thank you. I think, like you said, this makes this dilemma you were speaking of even stronger. The dilemma. Aslı, can you relate also to that now, having Erdoğan in the press very much again as like a peacemaker?
Yeah. Well, I relate to several issues, like Nadya commented on being from Belarus. I'm from an aggressive country too, so I'm sitting next to a Syrian, and yes, part of me is feeling guilty because Turkey is bombarding Syria, and there is very little about it in the.
Everybody is bombarding. It's okay. You are just.
Thank you.
No,
we are friends.
Not a big difference.
We are friends. So just a few bombs.
There's room for everyone.
And I have been on both sides, let's say. I've seen, actually I've been to the camps in the Syrian border to meet the refugees, and this change in Turkey also I witnessed, sorry to say, but there was much more welcome to Syrians just 6 years ago. And now, again, I'm ashamed for what's going on in Turkey, but the overall reaction is, oh, we have our own problems. We have had enough. Please go back. Like the human empathy is kind of limited, I guess, like a bank account. It's finished, and when it finishes, it turns quite negative, and there's some pogroms in Turkey now, just aiming at refugees, mainly Syrian refugees. And as a Turkish in Germany, as I'm a refugee too, I feel also Turkey fell out of focus. Like 6 years ago, the average German, average French was more interested in the human rights violations happening in Turkey. Perhaps more urgent things happened, of course. Turkey is not in a real all-out war, but some sort of a war. It is not an open dictatorship, but it is. Just the facade is democratic, but it is a dictatorship. 50 people died in Turkish prisons since the beginning of this year. Once in 5 days comes out a corpse. Okay, 50 maybe is not such a huge number, but what's happening in Turkey is really serious. But it lost its focal point. I think Syria too, which I find in a way normal, but in a certain way, of course, I do want to tell that, you know, Osman Kavala is still in prison, and there are thousands of people in prison. Turkey is going fast into a totalitarian regime, and it is a regime that's getting more aggressive, is producing more and more war and misery. And, you know, we should perhaps try to stop it before it becomes even a mass-scale misery.
I guess this forces you again into this role as an exile writer, again, in order to trying to stop it.
Yeah, I mean, in politics, it has some sense of urgency. Okay, I mean, it's human lives, all right? When it comes to tragic, what's happening, yes, I feel that, I don't know, the moral impulse that something should be done, whatever. I don't know what I can, we are not politicians, but at least, and these regimes, I feel, I'm not a politician, support each other actually. Even if they seem to be on a all-out fight. Putin is supporting Erdoğan, Erdoğan is supporting Putin. They are getting stronger together. They are raising each other. So, yeah.
So, solidarity, you would say.
We need it. Forced to be in solidarity.
Definitely. Thank you for this inside look into your perspective. I would like, we don't have that much time left here on stage, but I just had one final question maybe for everyone. We could start with Nadya. Do you think, it's a little bit different topic, but do you think when you doing exile art, don't call it exile art, but do you think you were put onto an island of exile art and the bridges, there are no bridges to the local scene? Does it feel like you are doing just exile art and you are not connected to the country you are now in?
I actually was speaking with my friend who come for a few days from Belarus, and we now have a kind of struggling between people who left and who stay. And I think that there is a problem, because like from one hand, like here I should speak about what is happening, but still, like we are always totally full of this news. Like we are living these 2 years only in our Instagrams and Facebooks, speaking about situation in Belarus, how it goes to worse and worse conditions. And we are trying to spread this information, but like people who stayed there cannot do anything, and people from this exile position judge people in Belarus who participate, for example, in some exhibitions, connected with Russia, for example. So the question is that we became more and more separated, and it's working for the regime as a good way. As all of us know, the separation helps to that. There is a question that I cannot stop to speak about this situation in Belarus in the same position. Personally, sometimes I'm thinking that I need to go to other problems, like people who are staying in Belarus could judge you because you are not inside, you don't know anything, it's different, and you can speak, but we cannot, and so on and so on. And from again, other version of this situation is that it seems sometimes very obvious and banal and simple to speak about exile in exile. So sometimes people also could say, oh, okay, you are also speaking about these migration problems, of course, but we need to go somewhere else. So yeah, I think that, and for example, for us as Belarusians, it's important also to speak about Ukraine. I don't know how, is it obvious? Is it seen? But we are trying, because for us it's important to show this position. I mean, especially for people in exile. So because we, for example, also was a part of Ukraine during our exile, and a lot of people were there. And it's also a problem for us. So yeah, we were not speaking about that some years ago, 8 years ago, but now we are inside also this war. That's why it changed a lot. So sorry for my long speech, but yeah, the bridges are also crashing by the situation that in exile, you are still more free to speak. But in the same time, you are tiny by what they are waiting from you.
Aslı, you wanted to agree with that?
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree. We are, after all, more free. And that is something really precious. I mean, it's like health. Before you lose it, you don't really know how precious it is. And, but yes, not to be afraid of police arrest or not to be afraid of bombs is a big, big, big privilege.
Thank you. Maybe we leave this panel on its positive note. Thank you for this. And opening the discussion up to the audience. I guess there are many questions. Please just raise your hand and.
Sorry, I'm here in the role of photographer, but everything you talk about, I really feel like this, and my question is maybe for all the participants, because being a refugee is also my personal situation. And when I talk with people who stayed in Ukraine, especially my close male friends, they say, you don't understand. When you talk about Ukraine with Germans, with Europeans, you already don't understand. You stayed for too long here. How do you manage it, and especially when you talk with big audience, as artists, as public actors? How do you manage to still keep this connection and represent your community in a proper way, or at least what feels proper?
I can, of course. Okay, I think it's very, it's really important because definitely when you are far away from a place and you lose kind of this, I have to say that, I mean, personally, it's just, this is, of course, I speak from personal experience. My whole family stayed in Syria. So when I speak to them, I'm not, we don't speak politics most of the time. I really can't grasp what they go through. And I'm not speaking about just suffering, even daily life things. I can't. So of course, and if I can't, imagine people who've never been in Syria or don't know Syria at all. So yeah, this is, but I think, I don't know if I have a good answer, but I think being aware of your position is a good start. Because I don't know if there's artists who claim representation for a whole country, you know. I don't think this is, again, maybe something imposed on us more than we claim, yeah? So I've never claimed that, come, I will tell you the story of Syria, or come, I show you what is Syria. I think this is, maybe some people do, I don't know, but I think from being aware of your new position, being aware of the limitation of that comes with this new position is maybe having this question in mind when you are working, for example, on Ukraine or Belarus or Turkey. I think it's an important start. And for me personally, it's, I also, it's even, but more, it happened when I was far from Syria. There is something not all negative because you start to see things from different angles also. In Syria, I was more or less inside the earthquake, yeah? I was totally immersed and affected in a different way. Outside, I'm still affected, but I also can see things from a different angle. I can be more critical sometimes. I can be, I don't know, I can have this luxury of distance to also, not just see the situation and process them, but also to contextualize them in different way, because I think these, and this has been mentioned now in this panel many times, these struggles or wars or conflicts or authoritarian regimes, what they do, it's not scattered island. Things are connected, you know. So for me today, again, this is personal. When I tell something about Syria, I'm not only speaking about Syria. I'm speaking about really global issues. Maybe the story, because I like to tell stories. They take place, time frame, or in a place called Syria, but I think the themes are really not just about Syria. And for me, this is more important now, to how to contextualize the struggles, because in reality, they are not limited to a geographical spot. Not in terms of geopolitics, this is clear, even in terms of moral dilemmas, you know, when you're speaking about fear, about resistance, about these, about love, I mean, yeah, my stories maybe are coming from Syrian protagonists, but they are not limited to Syria. So I think, for me, it's this, how you contextualize them, and then again, for me, what's happening in Ukraine now, it's really not about Ukraine. For me personally, it's never about only Ukrainians, you know. Because things are very connected, in my opinion. Again, not just geopolitically are very connected, but also in terms of these other themes that we try to tackle. I think this is, for me, the way to speak about Syria, to put it as it is, how I understand it. It's something that goes much beyond the geographical borders of a country named Syria, you know. Yeah.
I interpret also in your question, or maybe it's my own psychology reflected, but maybe there is also the, I don't know, I have it, let me put it this way. I call it guilt of Barabbas, the guilt of the survivor. Like, I'm out of prison, I'm out of Turkey, and there are still people there, and they are within the experience. I'm no longer. And the memory is really very, very swampy. You think you never forget prison or whatever, but you do forget. You do forget. You do forget the experiences you think you will never forget. The trauma is very, very tricky, I must say. And then I have this question also, how much do I represent anymore the people back there? Because I've been there a few years. I survived. I'm a survivor. How can I talk on behalf of the non-surviving, let's say, of the dead? So that is an open question for me too, in that sense.
Andriy.
Коли ти спілкуєшся з місцевою аудиторією, інколи вона чує, що у людей виникає питання, що ви вже не там. То наскільки ви представляєте людей, які там? Ви вже не розумієте, що відбувається там?
Я можу пояснити, я не зовсім це мала на увазі. Я вже відчуваю, спілкуючись з українцями в Україні, що я надто довго прожила в Німеччині, щоб їх розуміти і відповідно їх репрезентувати. Ну, як ви вирішуєте для себе це питання, чи є воно у вас?
I think I haven't this problem, and you know, every time especially I work with this topic here and with Ukrainian people here, and totally, for example, my next performance just now in Cologne, the title of this next performance, Putin Process, like this is not about this, not about this, but about which process, where is our part of this process? Yeah, all of us, the part of this Putin process, and where is like our part here in my country, in Ukraine? It's especially in Germany. Yeah, where is this part? And totally, it's. I'm artist. Yeah, and. It's maybe a little bit another position. I speak with my colleague from Ukraine, and we every time have this Telegram channel. But of course, it's absolutely another reality. You are right. We are here. I'm not from Kherson with the Russian army and after the referendum. I'm not from Kiev with this in bunker. I'm here. Yesterday I was here in this bunker party, yeah, and long time, and yeah, and I think, look, it's very important for not for Ukrainian audience, but for first of all for Germany audience here. It's very important understanding what happened. It long time. Yeah, it's not like. Just now it's 7 months plus 8 years, yeah, and how long this war in Syria and what happens in future, yeah, and that is why it's I need yeah, to present. Of course, it's my artist position. It's not position of my country, but I need to present this position here. This. Like, of course, unfortunately, my reality and what I'm think and totally what think my colleagues. That is why usually I work with documentary theater, and this is voices of simple people, like yesterday performance, teenagers performance, yeah. And I need to think about the future, of course. I need to think about the freedom, of course. What is it? Who is this fucking soldier in my native city just now? Yeah, okay, you have your country, go away from Crimea too. And that's all, yeah. And sorry, I don't know, do you have an answer for your question or no? Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much for this I'm very moved and while just listening to this, and I was listening to your descriptions of your state of mind and or the state, And I was wondering, listening to you, I was wondering, would you say? I was wondering whether what the state of being a refugee is that like giving up clearness and having to accept ambivalence, so to speak. Well, because like Aslı you're describing was sort of various moments of ambivalence, like sort of feeling free on the one hand and feeling guilty on the other hand for being free, or several of you others, the other participants, well, you all described by sort of this a kind of sort of ambivalent feeling, like be it to the language or be it to the country you left. So would that be correct to say was sort of being a refugee is having to put up with ambivalence more than other people?
I would like to answer.
Please, you, Nadya, start that. You start.
Thanks, because it will be connected also with previous question, and thank for this question also. Yeah, I think that it's very direct definition, because I think that even people who are living in one country for 10 years and I searched for this kind of comments, for example, from refugees from Belarus from 10 years ago, and all of them still are feeling that they are alien, they are not inside the culture, not inside the country, and of course it's very difficult because of different reasons, and especially if you are still thinking and speaking from the people who are inside, but still you cannot do it perfectly, but you're trying. So it also means that you are not inside the culture of the country where you are living. So this being somewhere in between, it is always working, but I think that it also could be helpful to be more honest, because you can be a little bit critical for these both positions. Like you are not representing something special, and you shouldn't do that. So, like connecting with previous question, you are not had to do and to speak about anything. Like if you decide to try to represent some community, you should work with community, and you are, let's say, community-based and socially engaged artist, but you can still be very individual artist who are speaking as he or she want to, and be more heroical, for example, in your position. So it depends on you and what you want to represent. If you really want to be connected with community, you should ask them. And I think that it's also possible to help people who are staying in the country to speak from their voices, because you have this freedom. You could just ask them somehow, like, to put your individuality a little bit less down. But if you don't want to, you can speak about very different questions, and then you will be not a refugee who are speaking about refugees' problems. So it's also like an ambivalent state, like you can choose what you really want to do. Do you want to, like when you are not first migrant, you choose the country and the culture where you want to live. And there is my main question of what I'm trying to show also, that yeah, people still feel guilty and so on because they don't want to go to Germany, for example, or to Poland, anywhere. But if people decide to do that, they don't feel guilty, they don't feel ashamed, they don't feel that they used to stay Belarusians, Ukrainians, Syrians, and so on. They want to be Germans. So it depends on your choice, like what you want to be and to show.
Thank you.
I really like the word ambivalence. I think it is not just refugees. I think the part of being human is this. It's in this word ambivalence. I'm looking for a second or a third word that needs to come with it, and I can't really find it. I would say like it's a no man's land, maybe. It's again a personal feeling, just a personal experience of my refugee status. I'm not in there, but I'm not here either. Somewhere, yeah, it gives a feeling of freedom. No man's land, there are no soldiers here. It doesn't belong to anybody, so I can assume it. But yes, this maybe being on the bridge, like neither there, between past and future, and this is how I would metaphorize my feeling. I'm not here, definitely. I don't feel I'm in Germany. For 6 years I haven't felt it. And this is not entirely negative, I must say.
I just want to add something for your question, and this is really, it's not negative, I hope. It's not poetic even or anything. But once you are a refugee for the rest of your life. This is how I believe, and again, this is not a negative statement, because I'm really because this is something I think about. Like, let's speak on practical terms. Let's say like, because for example, I just give an example. I lived in Lebanon for long also, and Lebanon is a country that witnessed more or less what Syria witnessing now, in different scale, yeah. And there was two Lebanese that I was mingling with: the Lebanese who never left Lebanon and the Lebanese who returned. And those who returned, they returned to something different, and they are kind of refugees in their homeland also. Again, I'm not putting in a negative. They have the rights, they live in a good life. But if you live abroad or you are exiled or whatever reason why you left, also your homeland, regardless of how you are attached to it, but I'm speaking really about practical terms, it's not waiting for you the moment, exactly the moment you left it. You know. Things change. So I think this status will be with you for the rest of your life, regardless if you decided to get a new nationality and learn a new language. You will never arrive completely to the new place, and you cannot ever be the same person or in the previous place also. Of course, this is different maybe from person to another, so I don't want to generalize, but this is how I think about myself. Of course, again, it's different about the generation. Of course, people who arrived like 2 years old to a new place, even I doubt it, but of course the possibility that they can identify with the new context. Though now I live in a place in Berlin where I meet third generation Turkish, German, not Turkish, but they consider themselves Turkish, more than their parents, really. I'm kind of working on this topic, by the, because where I live in Germany, it's in Berlin, sorry. Third generation, they've never been in Turkey. Some of them that don't speak Turkish, or they speak this and they see themselves as Turkish. You know. Anyway, so I think once you are a refugee, and I cannot insist enough. It's not a negative statement. I'm not saying it with any bitterness. It's more objective. You are a refugee for the rest of your life, even if you go back to your homeland.
Що це певним чином втрачення ясності і така неясність, амбівалентність. І чи це справедливий стейтмент, що це амбівалентність?
Просто перекласти, тому що мені буде дуже важко сказати. Sorry, I need help my friend Ivan. Справа в тому, що я не відчуваю себе біженцем.
I don't feel myself as a refugee.
Незважаючи на те, що я тут 7 місяців живу.
Despite the fact that I've been living here for 7 months.
Тобто в мене є чітке розуміння, що я повернусь додому і продовжу працювати.
I have a clear feeling that I will return home and continue my work there.
І тут я відчуваю, так як я багато працював до цього в Німеччині, то для мене є відчуття, що я просто працюю в Німеччині, але цей тріп затягується.
And since I have worked for a long time in Germany, I just have this feeling that I'm just working now in Germany and it's just lasting a bit longer.
І він постійно затягується, так.
And it's just lasting and lasting. It's
думаю,
postponing.
Блін, ну він затягується, треба якось пришвидшити це все.
So it's postponing and postponing. You have to kind of make it run faster.
Треба робити більше вистав просто в Німеччині, да? Щоб якби швидше наступила перемога.
You have to make more shows in Germany so that the victory comes faster.
І, власне, я відчуваю себе таким тут, бо мені дуже хочеться взяти автомат і піти на війну, реально. Та?
So that's how I feel here, because I really want to get a machine gun and go to war.
Але, блін, я не можу, тому що якби, я удівець, у мене син, якому 8 років, у мене мама там інвалід, і більше нікого у них немає. І я маю їх теж якби, виростити. Да.
Yeah, but I cannot because my wife is no more. I have to feed my son. My mother is handicapped, and somehow I have to take care of him. I have to bring up the child.
Але ж я не можу зупинити свою війну тут на території Німеччини, яку я веду постійно. Да.
So, but I cannot stop the war here on the German territory.
І ця позиція, вона мені дає відчуття, що я не біженець, я просто працюю.
So this position gives me the feeling that I'm not a refugee. I'm just working.
Yeah, that's all.
Some more questions? Right, then we'll close it for today, but thank you so much for being here with us, and also to Poland for being here with us too digitally. I think this... she's seeing us there. Sorry. Yeah, I think these inside looks and perspectives are really important, also for us from the Goethe-Institut to hear them, to listen and to take notes. And yeah, thank you all also for being here. And yeah, I think the next panel will start about now, or will come after. So I would go hand back to Marc-André. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you much, the panelists. Exactly, the next panel will start in about 30 minutes, and it's about we continue actually the discussion, but from the institutional perspective as well. What is the support its institutions in Germany can give as well to artists and risk, and what is the implication this support has as well. So thank you for joining us from Poland, and for discussing these topics. And we will not stop this discussion, because we will continue this with the next programs as well, with Goethe-Institut in Exile, which is a program for the next 2 years. So it's something that we will continue definitely within this space and within this larger room as well. Thank you very much.